Aussie oysters are a multi-million-dollar industry that relies on our country's waterways. But for farmers like Kieran, they're battling more than just the tide because some unwanted visitors have slipped through.
We sell to friends and family, we sell to local restaurants, we get, 200 or 300 dozen orders for our oysters. This is a disaster. The people who did this knew exactly what they were doing and they clearly didn't care.
It is well organised to move that scale and that number of oysters in one hit.
They've been hinged.
By the time they get from sea paddock to plate, it's easy to forget oysters are grown in brackish backwaters like these right across the country. Farming them is not for the faint-hearted, especially here where the weather and disease aren't the only things threatening the crop. Kieran Gate is one of 7 locals behind Bulimba Oyster Company and this farming lease off Stradbroke Island in Brisbane's Moreton Bay. Accessible only by boat, or in our case a humble tinny, the work they do is timed with the tide, rising and falling rapidly across the farmed flat. Paradise.
Sure is.
It feels like it, doesn't it? Kieran and his mates have shared the load and more than a few laughs here for 3 years. It's a beautiful place, but it has its challenges.
It sure has.
This year was supposed to be their second harvest, but someone beat them to it. What should have been a proud moment caught on video.
Righto, there's a bit of a disaster. There's nothing on these lines here.
Became a recording of a shock discovery. 60 baskets of mature oysters had been stolen.
I'll have a look and see what's in these.
And 60 baskets is approximately 600 dozen oysters, or $12,000 worth. When you made that discovery, how does that leave you feeling?
Oh, we're gutted. They've all been stolen, all the bags.
And it's not the first time the area has been hit. This is the 3rd year in a row an oyster heist has taken place in the bay. How close to harvest were some of these oysters?
These were all ready. They were ready to go. We come to pick them up to deliver to a restaurant and our online customer orders, and we have nothing, so they were all plate ready.
The thieves also dumped some of their juvenile stock for the seasons to come, but they did leave behind baskets of trial stock, new Queensland sunshine oysters, which are more resistant to a disease that wiped out surrounding farms.
And they're growing almost twice as fast as the standard Sydney rock oysters, which is an absolute bonus for the growers to have 2 seasons you can get fully grown oysters.
So these are the green shoots, but they're nowhere near as mature as the oysters the thieves took.
No, the oysters that were taken, they were ready for the table. They were full size, plump, juicy and ready to go. Yeah, that was very disappointing.
And this latest theft, like those before it, is as intriguing as it is devastating, because industry insiders know taking such a huge haul would require extensive know-how, equipment, and a willing buyer ready to sell or store the stolen goods.
You're talking about a ton of oysters being removed in one go, so it's definitely an organised theft, well-planned theft. It's not just a by chance a boatie or a jet skier going past.
Professor Andrew Robson is the president of the Queensland Oyster Growers Association.
If we're building this industry with more growers and more support from society, then obviously we need the stock, and things like this only damage the availability and the reliability of that stock.
He's fearful more interruptions to local supply in the lead up to the Brisbane 2032 Olympic Games could impact the industry as a whole, which is much smaller than its interstate counterparts in New South Wales, South Australia and Tasmania. And less oysters means each one will be more expensive for consumers.
The availability of rock oysters has dropped markedly over the last sort of 18 months, and that has meant the price has gone up.
Water police do conduct patrols of the area, but the thieves have dodged them as well, installing specialised security cameras, now seemingly their only option.
I mean, something like that would be an absolute godsend, to be able to monitor the waters much more proficiently.
It's a costly exercise though,
Very
isn't it?
costly, yeah. Yeah, and for people like us, you know, we're essentially hobby farmers trying to grow a business. A $7,000 or $8,000 camera it's a major expense.
We're hoping through working with the Queensland government that we might, as an industry, have the opportunity to deploy surveillance cameras across the majority of leases in the future.
What do you guys do now?
We just have to ramp up the security and cross our fingers.
Because it's your hard work sitting there in the water, you know? It's so unfair for someone else to just come and snatch it.
Oh, it's gutting, mate. Yeah, absolutely gutting.
Yeah, it sure is a low act. All that hard work and absolutely no return.